So my name's Brandi. I've spoken with a few of you today. We've been introduced. Some of you have come by the booth, and I appreciate that. And so here's something that I personally loved about today was when Nona took it to church, because I was raised Pentecostal and super Pentecostal. You can't tell by the black leather sweatsuit today. But one of the things that I really loved that I took from the experience of my raising was that, y'all, we had interactive services. Like, you weren't a participant. You didn't just show up to look pretty. We talked back. So I had two wonderful, just Christian, full of love, full of grace ladies that I grew up with, watching all my life. And one was Sister Karen and one was Sister Roberta. And Sister Roberta was a Reformed heavy smoker, and she sat on the left side of the church, and when she was really feeling what the pastor was saying, she would just quip off with a, "That's right." And it was really fun when I brought my Baptist friends with me, and they were like, "What just happened behind me?" And I was like, "We're just talking." And then Sister Karen sat on the right side of the service, and she was super vivacious and emboldened, and she would come off with a "well" and a "preach on." So what I'm going to have you guys do today is, my Sister Roberta's are on this side, so you're my that's right girls. My Sister Karen's are over here with a "well," and then we're going to have "preach on" in the middle. So if at any given moment today you feel like something is speaking to you, just speak back to me. Give me a little feedback and make it fun. So this has been an amazing conference. I actually came last year and I sat in the same seats that you guys are in today. Well, not actually the same seats. I was in seats upstairs watching the conference. So I was so excited to be part of this conference after a very long stretch of virtual conferences and Zoom calls. I was so hungry and ready to be in person in a live event, engaging with like-minded individuals, seeing speakers just right here, feeling their energy. And so I drove down for this conference. I live quite a ways north from here. I got to the conference, I was super excited. I come in and I sit down and I'm like, oh, there's a screen and that stage kind of seems small, and where are the speakers at and what's happening? And so I kind of started asking around, hey, am I in the wrong room? I thought this was a virtual, audience, right? A live audience. They're like, no, this is a virtual watch party. And y'all, I'm gonna preface this with, I had given up coffee 7 months before that, so my saltiness isn't totally my own responsibility to own at this point. So I sat there and I could just kind of feel when you just feel it bubbling, there's nothing holy about it that's starting to rise up in you. I'm thinking, I woke up incredibly early. I got out of yoga pants, I took a messy bun down, I put a face on, and I drove 71 miles fighting the traffic to go be at this live event. And Jamie Ivy's downstairs and doesn't know her best friend she's never met is upstairs. I mean, come on, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm just feeling a little salty. I'm feeling a little resentful, and not my shining moment. I will give it right here. And I even sent out a text to one of my friends. I grab my phone out and I start, the angry thumbs? I'm like, okay, so this is what I did, and I drove all this way, and I could have stayed home, and it's a virtual conference. And she's like, I just maybe see how the day goes. So as the day went on, speakers started coming. It was amazing. It was incredible. They did an awesome job, and I could just feel the spirit, and I could feel the message that was being shared. My petulance started subsiding a bit. I became a little less entitled. I had a little less self-pity for my circumstance, and so I began meeting and networking and talking with people across the table, and about halfway through the day, I got an email notification that one of the girls who I had just met at lunch had bought a hat for my website. So I was like, check, made it worth coming to the conference, right? I was able to meet some of the fantastic, polished, and boldly staff and make connections, and over the course of the year, from there to here, I've become very friendly with the Polish Network. I've spoken at some Polish luncheons, and I'm here at Boldly today. So it's not lost on me. The irony is not lost about what I want to talk to you guys about today, which is behind the scenes breakthroughs and breakthroughs that require bold faith. Because I think sometimes we get a little caught up thinking about our circumstances, and we don't take a moment to realize that there may be something working in the midst of our circumstances that we couldn't even possibly wrap our brain around to begin with. So as we talk about these two breakthroughs, we're going to talk about behind the scenes, we're going to talk about breakthroughs that require bold faith. I want to give you a little background because I've spent 2 years like praying and begging for breakthroughs in business and in life and in faith. In March of 2020, I was set to launch, y'all, Nona like literally gave half of my speech this morning. She did it phenomenally. But she's talking about like 2020 being lit and the biggest year of her life. That's where I was March of 2020. I had hats set to go into production within a 1 week time period, March 19th being the date. I had a book that was launching. I was speaking at a conference in LA to launch the book. I had a book tour lined up. We had speaking engagements throughout the entire year. The survivors that I mentor were scheduled to start training to stamp the bands for us. Like we were rocking and rolling, and I was like, hey babe, take care of the kids, I'll see you in December, is where we were at, right? And within 48 hours, my entire world came to a screeching halt, like most of ours did. And I found myself at one point just face first on the floor, wailing to God. Like angry, talking to God. Just, what are we doing? Why did you bring me this far to just drop me? Like, is this the call that you brought me to? Is there a chance that I missed your message so bad that I have done all this and put all this work in to have doors slammed shut in my face? And I just kept seeking and I kept praying and I kept asking and I kept saying, God, send me clarity. Show me what it is that you really want me to do here, Because I'll be honest, what was going through my brain at the time was are we gonna go broke? Are we gonna die? Are we gonna go broke and die? Is anyone gonna care about buying hats after the trauma of a global pandemic? Can we financially afford launching a social enterprise when our main income streams are petroleum and aerospace manufacturing, which don't know if you know what they did in 2020. It was a cool ride. And so I spent this time just praying and seeking and saying, okay, God, just direct me. And I just kept hearing him tell me repeatedly to remain faithful, to remain faithful, to remain faithful. And I'm like, all right, check, I'm faithful. But can you tell me what I do next? Left foot, right foot, where are we going, where are we turning? And then I was on my way to a meeting at one point, and I was struggling with some obstacles that had to do with manufacturing, because we did eventually launch after I spent a couple months of just feeling really terrible for myself. And we did eventually launch, and you guys, there's just been obstacle after obstacle for 2 years straight, right? The supply chain in itself it's a whole real thing. It's not just an excuse for why your Amazon order didn't get to you yet, right? So as I'm praying and I'm trying to sort out manufacturing, and I'm like, God, I got people that want to buy hats. I just need materials to make hats. Can you tell me what to do next? And what's the next step? And I said, I just need clarity. I just need clarity. And he said, wait, are you praying for clarity or are you asking me for omniscience? Because clarity says that I'm with you in this journey. I've called you to an assignment. You have an assignment, and I need you to remain faithful. But omniscience is you knowing it all. It's you knowing how this turns out. And guess what? You don't get to know it all. Because if I believe in the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-being God, then I believe in his presence with me, and I have the clarity to know that he's called me to it, and I got to keep moving forward, and I don't get to ask questions. And if I do, he's going to keep telling me just to remain faithful. So as I walked through all of this and I started thinking about this, I started thinking, faithfulness, it's not in our human nature, and God knows that. He knows that we're not just gonna wake up and be like, I trust you. It's a beautiful meme on Instagram, a little graphic with flowers and hearts, just trust in God, right? But when we truly have to trust in God, do we believe that he's a God of breakthroughs? Do we believe that he's working behind the scenes on our behalf? Do we believe that he's making a way? Because oftentimes we find that while we think we're praying for breakthroughs, we're praying for breakout. We are in a culture that is inundated with overnight success and instant gratification. And so we're over here like, God, I'm praying for breakthrough. No, I'm praying for breakout success, fame, and influence. That's what I'm praying for. But what I need to be praying for is breakout faith, you guys. The faith that says we're bold enough to believe that our God is big enough to do what it is that he's called us to do. And we just have to keep taking steps. It's kind of like me being at the Boldly conference, right? As we pray and we ask for these breakthroughs, I'm like, God, I'm praying for a breakthrough in my business today. I'm praying Just give me a breakthrough. And God's like, okay, cool. I brought you to this conference today for a breakthrough in your business. And then we say, God, I'm praying for a breakthrough. Like, I need a breakthrough. Like, just give me a breakthrough, God. Here I am. I'm faithful. I'm diligent. I'm a good servant. I'm putting in the work. Like, give me a breakthrough. And he's like, the person that's seated at your table that I've positioned at your position today is going to provide a breakthrough for you. Okay, God, I'm praying for a breakthrough. Hey, girl, do you know that I've held the wolves at bay today, that I've broken through against the enemy for you on your behalf? All right, God, but I just need a breakthrough. I need a breakthrough. Do you realize the patrons that shopped in your store this month? I sent them so that you could pay your bills and your rent, and you could continue because I'm a God of provision. God, I need a breakthrough. Just give me a breakthrough. I mean, I'm in between jobs. I lost my job. Great. I removed you from your position so that you could break through into your calling for today. And you need to have the faith that says that you trust me and that you're going to follow me through that. God, I need a breakthrough. Okay, but listen for one moment. Fear not, for I am the Lord your God. I am with you wherever you go. This is your breakthrough. He's with us wherever we go. But God, he's not just a silent observer. He's not just sitting back watching and seeing what we can do and how we can perform. He's actively in this journey with us. He is actively breaking through. When I was in the midst of my pity and my spiral, I was seeking God, and I thought, it was my birthday, and I'm an Enneagram 3, so we like to use birthdays to look at all the things we did in the last year and all the things that we failed at not doing in the last year. So in the middle of a pandemic, that's really fun. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking it's been a month that I've had everything removed from me, from March 19th to April 15th. It's been a month. And I'm thinking, I'm so sad. I'm not sad because I'm getting older. I'm wired to achieve. I'm wired to perform. And if this God that's created me, that has woven me together with this in my spirit is so good and so faithful and breaking through for me, what happens next? Where do we go? What do I do? How do I keep being me if I can't keep achieving and performing? And God said, look, stop. If you never podcast again, if you never write another book, if you never make a hat, if you never mentor another survivor, if you never stand on another stage, if there's never another stage to stand on, you're here. You're where I've placed you. You're on assignment, and you are loved and fully known and fully seen where you are at. Let this be your breakthrough. And that was my breakthrough. That was my breakthrough that I reached at the end of that journey. And it was the most freeing thing and the most gracious gift that he could have given me, to say, you're here, you're good, you're loved. You don't have to keep striving so hard. Maybe take a breather and let me do some work for you. Okay, fine, that sounds great. So how did we get to hats, and how did we get to trafficked survivors? It's all part of these beautiful breakthroughs that he works behind the scenes for us while we're not seeing them and not paying attention to them. In May of 2017, I went to Australia. I went to launch my skincare company there. And it was going to be an expensive trip. I was going to be away from my kids for quite some time. It was a big commitment. But I just really felt in my soul that it was truly what God had called me to do in this space. And truth be told, I felt like I was being called to do this so that I could go launch at a ground floor level and skyrocket to the top of the company and #breakout success, right? But what I didn't know was that my eyes were going to be open to the tragedy of human trafficking while I was there. I didn't know that I was going to be called to this fight. I didn't know that he was breaking through on behalf of me. And so in the midst of this conversation and God leading and orchestrating this path so beautifully for me, he says, go to Australia. And I'm like, yeah, but that's a 17-hour flight. I got to be away from my kids for 3 weeks. It's going to be expensive. He says, I'm making a way. And then while I was there, I saw a billboard that talked about immigrants being targeted for trafficking. And I was in a place where I was telling God I would say yes to whatever he brought my way at this point. I thought, I've done well in business. I've done well in life. If there's a greater calling, then here I am, open hands, open heart, just call me. So I see this billboard, I come home, and I start really just researching. I knew nothing about human trafficking. At the time, I thought it was some problem that Australia had, and I thought Australia was a little shady because of it. So I came home, I started researching, I started looking, I started reading, and I found that all I could hear from God, like as he was taking hold of my heart, and he would wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning every night, I would hear, move your feet and serve where you are. Now, I'm a 3, like I told you guys. So things need to be big and grandiose for me to feel like I've really answered the call of God. I need to cross oceans and sleep on dirt floors and, do some great, amazing things. And God said, move your feet and serve where you are. And I said, great, God, I don't even know what that means. And he said, that's okay, because I'm going to order your steps. And so I started researching and looking, and I'm like, all right, I'm a speaker. I like to coach and train people. He wants me to move my feet. I'm not really an active person, whatever. I found the Walk for Freedom, A21's Walk for Freedom, that brings awareness to human trafficking that they do globally every year. And I thought, well, this is a very literal way for me to move my feet and serve where I am. So I signed up for the Walk for Freedom. Once again, not knowing where I was going or where it was taking me. And as I was planning the walk, I started working with other, finding anti-trafficking organizations and speaking with them and saying, hey, do you want to be involved in this? And then I found an aftercare home that provides aftercare for sexually exploited and trafficked survivors. And God said, I think that you need to mentor survivors of human trafficking. And I said, ooh, okay, wait, hold up. So that seems real shady. It seems real scary. I don't know if I want to mess with the bad guys. And he said, fear not, for I'm with you. And so I started mentoring traffic survivors. And then I started sharing my story, and I started raising awareness. And it was one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I was just telling anybody that would listen to me. I told a woman on an airplane one time after an hour-long conversation about anti-trafficking, I said, by the way, I really am fun. Come hang out with me sometime. And so I started telling this, but as I did this, people started asking questions. They wanted to know more about the story. And so God said, start a blog and a podcast. And I was like, oh, I don't really like my voice. And what if this is terrible? And he said, I know the plans that I have for you. So I started the blog and the podcast, and I started interviewing women with this heart for social enterprise, and I started learning about vocational stewardship, and I started learning about using business as a tool for good. And God said, start a social enterprise hat company and employ the women that you mentor. And I was like, I don't have a clue how to, I love hats. I don't know how to make them. I certainly don't know how to weave all of these parts together. And he said, I'll uphold you. So then from there, I started meeting other women that own businesses or wanted to start businesses, and they were looking to create impact with business. Women that had hearts for sales and hearts for marketing and hearts for training and building teams and starting companies from the ground up. But they were like, I don't want to just sell things. I want them to do good. Can you teach me how to do what you do? And I'm like, no, because you don't mentor traffic survivors. I don't even know how to help you or how to get started. And God said, start a collective of social enterprises. Bring these women-owned businesses together. Train these companies on how to create opportunities for the under-resourced. Show them and teach them about transparent sourcing. Show them how to have an ethical supply chain with a transparent supply chain where that we're truly creating a better way of life for individuals. Don't just go employ survivors of sex trafficking, but let's make sure that we're improving the lives of the people that are in the apparel industry, that we're making sure that they're getting a fair living wage and having safe working environments. And I was like, okay, pump the brakes. Listen, I don't have good experience with partnerships in business. We've got a little bit of some bad vibes there. Also, I don't want to be in business with a bunch of women. I just don't. That's a nightmare. And God said, I've appointed you. And so after we created this collective and we brought these women together and we started promoting one another, we started doing events together, we started cross-marketing, then I started having people we got some great brand awareness and people started asking for a storefront. So I started looking for a storefront. And I started thinking, okay, I'm from a really small rural town. We're about 70 miles north of here. If you're going to WinStar, we're the last time you blink your eyes in Texas. And so I started thinking, well, I'm certainly not going to plant here. I'm gonna go put a store in Fort Worth or Denton or somewhere we've got heavier foot traffic. And God said, no, I want you to plant your store in your hometown. And I was like, God, listen, it's kind of my Nineveh. I don't really like it. I don't really want to talk to these people. They don't get it. They don't understand social responsibility. They're not my target market. They're not gonna buy a $200 hat, bro. Like, come on. And God said, my power is at work within you. And so I started praying. Y'all, I fought him. I fought him for like about a year and a half before I said, okay, I'll go to my hometown. And as I was praying and I was thinking, and I was like, okay, God, it makes 0 sense for me to start a storefront right now because I have no inventory. I'm still working on supply chain issues. The girls that I mentor that work for me are doing fantastic and have full-time jobs and don't need transitional employment right now. And so it really doesn't make sense for me to open up this building. And he said, listen, this isn't about the hats. Like, you want a breakthrough, you've been praying for a breakthrough. It's not about your hats, it's not about your shirts, it's not about your business. This is the vehicle. He said, you're gonna open up a storefront and it's gonna be a space for the unchurched to meet Jesus. And you guys, we see that every single week in our storefront. And we have people that would never set foot in a church. They would not come to a women's faith conference. They're not gonna pick up a Bible study, but they come in and they sit and they say the energy in here is amazing. And I'm like, that's because God told me to abide. And I finally did after 18 months of arguing. And they come in and they say, I feel safe in your storefront. I feel loved. I feel like I can tell you something that I've not told anyone before. And we have conversations and we pray with people and we just meet them where they're at. So when you're thinking about these breakthroughs and you're looking for the breakthrough in your life and you're praying, maybe take a minute and think that there is a whole journey of breakthroughs that have been happening behind the scenes, and you just have to have the faith to believe that your God is breaking through on your behalf today. We don't get to know the answers. We don't get to see the end of the journey. We just have to be faithful and remain faithful. And so I have a few things that I wanted to add. So the power within, when God says my power's at work within you. When I started this journey back in 2017, you know when you feel God just start really calling and you're like, I don't even know what he's calling, but okay. I had gone to a conference and I knew I was speaking, I was doing a lot of sales trainings, but I was leaning into God's call in my life and less of what I wanted to plan for my own life. And so I spoke with a business mentor there that was signing books and chatting, and I was like, look, I know I'm supposed to be like speaking to people about something other than business and sales, but I don't really know how to make that happen. And she said, what's your one thing? What is your one thing that you can build, that you could say you could build everything on and you could talk about forever? And I was like, oh, that's easy, power. Not even being faithful, y'all, so don't give me 2 snaps or anything like that. I was like, power. Like, I talk about the power of sales, the power of leadership, the power of marketing, the power of business, right? The power of speaking. And so she was like, okay, go with that. So came home from that conference, started breaking it down. I'm like, okay, so I feel like this power thing can break down to an acronym where we've got purpose, ownership, wisdom, empowerment, and reach. Like, if these 5 things give me my pillars of my brand, I think I can build something out of this that inspires and empowers others. And once again, had 0 clue where any of this was going. And so as I'm praying about it and I'm studying about it, at that same conference, I had picked up the Unshakable Devotional by Christine Caine. She had autographed it. And I flipped it open and thought, I'm gonna go ahead and start today with this whole power jam, right? Flipped it open and she had signed it Ephesians 3:20. So I flipped to it. And I love the Message version of this scripture. I just think it's so beautiful if you break it down like this. God can do anything, you know, far more than you could ever imagine or guess or request in your wildest dreams. He does it not by pushing us around, but by working within us, his spirit deeply and gently within us. He does that by breaking through behind the scenes on our behalf, and he just asks us to break through boldly in faith. Last year, I got to tell Christine Caine that story and tell her, look, I started with Move My Feet and Serve Where I Am with a Walk for Freedom, started mentoring trafficked survivors, have a social enterprise hat company that employs survivors, creating opportunities for those in need. Like, Y'all, won't he do it? Like, he did it right there. Not me, not by my own strength, but by his breakthrough, his bold breakthroughs. So I ask each of you to just think of this today as you look at everyone that has stepped on this stage today, and you hear stories and you're inspired. Don't just be inspired, but realize that the God that we talk about, the God that we believe in here, the omniscient God, has gone before them and broken through for them. But they've had two things. They've had to have the faith that he's working on their behalf, that he's making a way in the wilderness, that he's making rivers in the desert. And they've also had to take the action steps of faith to trust that he's got them, y'all. Every single step, like we go scared every step of the way. I don't have a clue. When I load up a van full of hats and bring it to a conference, there might be 10 people there and crickets. I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen, but God says go. He says, go to this conference, share your story, take some hats, talk to some people. And I've learned at this point to quit arguing. It took me till I was about 40, but at this point, it's easier if we just go with it. But there's 5 things that I want you to think about while you're trying to think about your own breakthroughs in business and faith. And I hope that you've gained some takeaways from this. The first is, I want you to daily thank God for breakthroughs that you don't see and don't know are happening. Thank God for the breakthroughs that are happening, that are taking place behind the scenes, that you know nothing about, that you may not ever see the fruit of, or you may see it in 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years. And then the second is, I want you to confess your lack of faith to a power partner. Do you guys know what power partners are? I don't have anybody that knows what a power partner is. Oh, my power partner in the back knows what a power partner is. Thanks. So a power partner is not someone that is going to coddle you or like just pat you on the back and tell you it's gonna be okay. A power partner is someone that's gonna motivate you, inspire you, hold you accountable, push you, tell you to get up and get out of the pity spiral, tell you that maybe you should give the conference a chance, it might be kind of good, right? So I want you, if you don't have a power partner and you don't have someone at home that you can think of, like, I don't want them to give you fluff. I want them to tell you like this is a bad idea or a good idea, right? And I want them to push you. So if you don't have one, don't leave this conference before you get a power partner. Look around at the table with people you're sitting at, ask them to be your power partner. But I want you to confess your lack of faith. I want you to say, this is the leap of faith that I'm feeling called to, but I'm scared of fill in the blank. Don't stay in that blank, move past that blank, but let's confess that because confession is the first step. And then I'm gonna want you to research, what would it actually take for me to get to this breakthrough that I'm trying to reach? So I think we oftentimes get paralyzed, kind of like I was back in 2020, where I was thinking, we're looking at a global pandemic, who cares about felt hats? What's gonna happen when this is all over? Instead, just look at what can I do today to get one step closer to that breakthrough. If this is the breakthrough I'm praying for, what is the one thing I can do today that can make a difference on this journey and possibly lead to a breakthrough in my business? And then I also want you to have faith that his ways are better than yours and that he's actually breaking through on your behalf. Like, don't just say it, but believe it. Start believing it. That whole faith not being a natural thing to our human nature, it's a muscle that we can exercise, just like any type of muscle. Every single time that we depend on him, that we rely on him, that we trust him, and we thank him for the breakthroughs that we don't see, our faith grows just a little bit more. And see, I'm 5 years down this journey. I still doubt. I still fall face first on the floor. I'm still like, why, God, why? And he's like, girl, get up. We have done this. Come on, let's just keep going. Let's keep moving forward. But keep practicing that faith and letting your faith grow and get stronger and trusting in his breakthroughs. And then the fifth is, and if y'all aren't utilizing this one, you need to be, ask your praying friends to put you on their agenda and not just like a casual, like, hey, can you pray for me? Like, no, hey girl, I'm praying for a specific breakthrough in my business right now. Like, I need help in a manufacturing space. I need help in a supply chain space. I need people to come work for me. I need volunteers. I need you to pray. Like, put me on your list, write it down. Don't tell me. Like, put it in the notes on your phone. Set an alarm in your phone. And then also be the praying friend that's praying for your friend's breakthroughs. Set a reminder in your phone. Don't just be the girl that says, I'm out here praying for you in your business. Actually pray for the specific needs that these people are needing so that they can see breakthrough, so that we can all break through together. Because y'all, God's like, hey, y'all got an assignment and I'm over here running behind the scenes and I'm working. and I'm checking things off, and I'm breaking through for you on your behalf. What are you doing sitting still? Let's go. You've got the faith, now let's move. Let's take action, and let's break through together. And I just think that you guys have been given every single thing that you possibly need to do what it is that God is calling you to do today. And I just encourage you today to walk out of here in bold faith and break through boldly. Thank you.